it's a fight that we got to keep fighting, and we have to accept our brothers feeling those feelings. We have to encourage our brothers. It's okay. It's cool to cry. Have your moment, bro. Like, don't. I think as men, sometimes we try to like toughen them up in those moments. Oh man, this nigga over here crying. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
let him have that moment.
And I'm in the now, and it don't take no X-ray to see right through my smile.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 118 of The Awakens. 118 episodes. This shit's wild, bro. But we are here to discuss something powerful. But first, let me introduce my guest. First, we got my brother in the building, Mr. Dergo BJ himself from Change the Subject, R2 Sense Pod, Teach Me How to Love You Better. Dude, you do entirely too much. Co-owner of the Breaks Media, owner of Gold Mines Media. What don't you do?
Sleep and pay myself attention. That's pretty much all I don't do.
Damn,
But
bro.
yeah, man. But I love what I do. I think it helps me purge. So shouts out to all of those entities you name, because I get to learn myself, figure these things out, and become a better person. So I'm
That's
appreciative.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And then first time guest in the building from the Hours of Truth podcast, Mr. Rebel Rome himself is in the building. What's going on, bro?
Yeah, you already know, man. It's the Rebel Rhome. Also starting a media company, Trinity Media, coming soon. Also starting a second show called What Scuffs My Tims. Look out for that in a couple weeks.
Okay, okay. I feel like you gotta record that one in the bodega just because.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing some locations and different things to switch it up.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, we are here to discuss the power that's in black male vulnerability, and this is something that not many black men I know will openly talk about. So we gonna try to break some chains in this one, man. Y'all ready?
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. So the first topic that we're talking about is how conversations about black man's mental health and how intersectional racism aren't usually had in public. And then like how the social norms that are imposed on black men affect our ability to admit when we're depressed. So that's a lot to unpack there. Who wants to attack that one first?
Mm,
I mean, since I'm the newbie here, I'll go first. Um, just as far as vulnerability, right?
Yes, sir.
Just being from where I'm from, right? Like I'm from New York. I grew up in the projects, and that's just one thing that we aren't taught as kids. Like I always say, the two things that I learned about was getting pussy and getting paid. Like
Okay.
nothing,
mm-hmm.
nobody ever taught you like how to be a man, how to be a family man, or how to love your children, or like how to love your kids if you have a son, right? Like to show him that affectionate love. Like just picking up my son from school today and dropping him off with his mom. Like just I always make sure he give me a kiss on the cheek.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's about to be 7 years old because like that's my son. Like that's my pride and joy. I love him like that. So um just it's really difficult to unlearn these things. But as I've grown older, it's just something that I just been trying to pay attention to.
That's what's up.
Mm,
That's what's
mm.
up, especially like with the kids, and I've experienced that with my kids as well. I try to always show my kids affection because my dad was a great father. I say that all the time, but he was the typical stereotypical army man. Like he didn't. I can't imagine me and my well, I can't remember too many times me and my dad hugged. But like with my sons, I hug my sons all the damn time. Before bed, when they wake up in the morning, before they about to leave my presence. Like my youngest son is he hugs everybody all the damn time. So like I try myself, I've had to learn that because at first it was like when my son was born, it felt awkward just holding him. And I know most fathers feel that, but for me, it was more of a like how do I hold this little ass kid? I don't even know how to hug. You feel me? So like, I had
Mm.
I had to learn that. But that's just I relate to that as a father. BJ, what do you think about it?
Well, vulnerability was probably one of the very first emotions I remember feeling. Because like I've always been the kid that confused how I truly felt with a lot of the things that I was like expressing. Like, you know how like sometimes when people, well, no, perfect example, women, how the one attitude can represent four different stages in their life. Like, you know, the attitude could be, oh, she may be hungry, she might be cramping. Like, even though it shows the same sides or the same signages, it represents so many things. So I used to be always the kid that would express myself and not really know what's wrong with me. And so it would make me more emotional because I was like internalizing a lot of my stresses or a lot of my feelings. So being vulnerable was easy, but making sense of it was the difficult part, you
Yeah.
know, because nothing I ever felt was actually given an identity. Like you, if you cried, it was like, okay, you weak, you know, toughen up. So now I'm like confusing my sensitivities and believing that they're not valid. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm feeling these feelings and I know that I'm hurting. I know that I'm feeling a certain level of pain, but I'm confusing it with weakness. I'm confusing it with being belittled or, you know, like all of these different things. So you don't really get to identify with most of it. So it wasn't really that I struggle with vulnerability. I struggle with the identity within the vulnerability,
Okay.
you know, because it was always confused with another emotion, you know.
So in like how have you what have you done to try to break out of that? Like what are the processes that you've taken and that you would advise someone else who's trying to get in touch with their vulnerability on what they could do to get through that?
Um, the first thing that I had to do was like shut unhealthy people the fuck up. Like, you know, stop telling me that what I'm
Yeah.
feeling is a burden, is a like disposition of the entire gender or race that I come from, or like stop giving me the responsibilities of other people and pay attention to me as a person.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
that was the first thing. And then the second thing I believe it was I had to realize that it was nothing to be ashamed of. You know, we give certain privileges to people that we don't even give to ourselves. We make the provisions for our families, but we don't take care of ourselves. So like you have to stop being ashamed of the very things that you're trying to protect your family from. Own that you feel it too. Share those moments with those people too so that we can better support each other. It was so many different phases of acceptance I had to go through in order to make being vulnerable comfortable, you
Mm,
know. So that was my process, but it's still an everyday struggle because you still have somebody trying to manipulate a way to make you feel like being a vulnerable black man is an issue or a problem, you know. So it's a fight that we got to keep fighting, and we have to accept our brothers feeling those feelings. We have to encourage our brothers. It's okay, it's cool to cry, have your moment, bro. Like don't, I think as men sometimes we try to like toughen them up in those moments. Oh man, this nigga over here crying, you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
let him have that moment so that he can visually see his breakthrough or visually understand that okay, it's cool, this is accepted. I didn't get, you know, torn down or dismissed because I felt a real thing within myself. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I feel about it.
I feel that. What you got anything to come back with that on, Rome?
Nah, he pretty much said it all. Like, you just stop allowing people to place their expectations on you, and vice versa. Like, I think that's the thing that we do as a whole. Like anybody is me and you and me and BJ. We all lived a different life, so
Yeah.
let's not place those expectations on one another and allow people to be vulnerable in those moments that they feel. Because
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
way he love and the way you love and the way I love and how we all receive love is different. So if we vulnerable or we feel a way about something, or if we cry when we mad, or we cry when we get our heart broken, that's just how we are. Like, receive
Right,
that
right.
as it is, and don't try to turn it into something that should be a stereotype. Like, oh, you crying, that's mad gay, or like
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
that's
like
whack.
Quite, and I know this isn't on the list, so I may throw you guys for a loop for this one. When's the last time you cried?
Shit, yesterday.
What
Uh,
the heck? You cried yesterday?
Yeah, yeah.
Damn.
Like I have a strain, emotional strain with my job, and
Okay.
you know, you have you ever like been in a position where you had to fight for your peace?
Oh yeah. All
You
the
know what I'm
time.
saying? And I've kind of mentioned this like a little bit on Twitter, but I'm a truck driver, and naturally our company has this new DOT policy where we have to have trackers on our truck. And every morning before I start work, I have to meditate because there's a spiritual practice that I take where I try to be grateful for even the struggles, because I realize that even in this particular space, I've come from way worse than this. So I try to encourage myself and not be defeated with some of the pressures that I take or that I take in from work. So one morning, I do my usual meditation for like 25 minutes, and out of nowhere, my phone kept ringing. So naturally, as a black man, and your phone is ringing off the hook, you automatically think that it's an emergency and something happened, because it's not typical or usual.
Yeah.
So my anxiety went crazy because I'm right here in meditation, and out of nowhere I get in my pocket, get my phone out, and it's my boss, and he like, "Well, your truck been sitting idle for 30 minutes. What are you doing?" And that was that moment. I'm like, "Damn, my nigga, I'm praying in my mind." But even in that space, it was like, okay, so now I'm being monitored. And whether you know it or not, it takes me a lot to do my job. And now my meditation is being interrupted.
Hmm.
I broke down right there, like, damn, I can't get no peace. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
yeah,
And those days where, I got to motivate myself to do my job, you know, constantly being disrespected by customers, constantly being, pushed and moved around by law enforcement, because I work downtown in the major epicenter of the city. They don't want your big ass truck sitting in the middle of the street. So like you being harassed constantly, and you don't know if that conversation with that cop or that sheriff gonna go left.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So right then and there, it was just like, damn, I can't get no peace. And I found myself crying right there. Like, and it felt good to get that shit out, because
It.
then
Yeah.
I went and did my thing, and it was like, all right, cool, just get it how you live at this point. Like just make the best of it. So
Big facts. Big
yeah.
facts. Ron, what about you?
the last time I cried, I want to say it was about a few months ago. Um, I don't know, something just came over me, and music has been very influential in my life, and a few of the songs that I listen to just back to back just had me in my feelings just about the world and the things that we endure as black men. Um, one song in particular, J. Cole's "Be Free."
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That song always get me in my feelings about just the things that we incur every day as a black man. Like he said, like he don't know if one of those encounters with the police or the sheriff could go left. Like that's a real fear that I feel every day when I see a police car driving behind me.
Yeah, real talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a few months ago I was just in my feelings, and a few songs played on my phone back to back, and it got tears flowing down.
Damn. The last time I cried was my aunt recently passed away. BJ, I know you know. Rome, you may not know.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt recently passed away, but it wasn't even that. I logged in to Facebook, which I'm rarely on. I think like there's a few days after. It was either a few days after her death or a few days before her funeral. And the last message she sent me on Facebook was, "I see what you're doing, and I'm proud of you." Bro, I broke
Mm.
down like a baby. Like I was done for a whole hour. You couldn't talk. If somebody would have came up and said hi to me, I probably would have broke. They probably would have been like, "What? This man's crying because I said hi to him?" Like legit. It was too much for me in that moment. Yeah. Yeah, that was the
That
last time I cried.
yeah, yeah. But did you get an opportunity to grieve? Because you know that there's a double standard to grief when it comes to a black man too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say I'm still in the midst of it, honestly. I'm still in the midst of grieving.
So like what's that process? Because I know that like for us, well, I'm gonna just speak for me. We try to occupy ourselves with creativity or habit to kind of distract us from that moment that we actually need that release. We need that opportunity to mourn. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like feel what you feeling and sit in it and let it be real to you, because those moments of grief are subsided with other people's responsibilities and feelings.
Yeah.
We don't even get to feel the things that our families feel when people die. Like that sounds crazy, but that's just the burden of being a man. Like you can't even cry while the women are crying because you got to make sure everybody else is being held up. So it's like I have to ask people, like, do you actually grieve? Do you sit with it and and get it all out? Like, damn, I wish I had this moment to tell auntie or tell uncle this. Like, do you get to really get those feelings out? You know?
I haven't yet, and I know it's gonna catch up with me. And BG, you know me a little bit better. So like there, I've been burying myself in my creativity, absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
because it's really it's been flowing out. So I try to embrace it while it's flowing out, but I already know it's gonna catch up with me. It's coming, and I feel it like on my shoulder, and I'm gonna have to have that moment that you talked about where I just sit down and just let the shit out. And I'm not fighting it off. It just really hasn't come to me yet, so I'm not trying to fight against it, but while I'm getting to that point, I'm just trying to be as creative as I can be.
And I know that whenever there's an opportunity for us to even think about, okay, this is one of those moments where my emotions are going to get the best of me, we deflect from that. And that's one of the most detrimental things that any of us could ever do. You
Yeah,
know, part of the reason why is because, like I said, you have to give your feelings an identity so that when you realize what they actually are, you can go get some help. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? If that's what you need. Um, like depression, like we don't readily recognize depression because there's no identity to it in the black community. It's like it has so many different symptoms. There's so many different signs of it. Like you don't get to really identify with it because everything that you could identify with it, they always make it about something else.
that's true. Yeah,
So that's the messed up part about it. Is like we don't really get to figure it out to even know that this is what we feeling, you know.
yeah. It's a process, and I think like my grandmother passed away when I was 13, and I think I put that off for 10 years, bro. 10 years I put that off until it caught up with me, and that's when I
Hmm.
realized the importance of being able to grieve. That's when I started realizing the importance of it's okay to not be okay, because I put that off forever. Like literally, I'm just like, I'm gonna keep pushing for her. I'm gonna keep put. She wouldn't want to see
Hmm.
me down. She wouldn't want to see me sad. What I'm gonna be sad about? And I was back in her house that she died in, and it just was like I saw a picture of her on because my uncle got the house now. It's like over the fireplace. That shit sent me into a whirlwind, bro. Like one that I have never felt before. And from that point, I've tried to give myself more time to grieve because I realized that it was a lot of anger in that I didn't deal with. And then on top of that, my parents got divorced like 3 years later. So it was like those things combined turned me into a crazy person for a long time, bro. A
Hmm.
long time. That kind of brings us to the next question. Is that like how often do you make decisions to protect your own mental health? And I guess I'll add this on. Do you ever feel guilty about making decisions that's just to protect your mental health?
Mm-mm. Not
Oh,
no more.
not no more. How long did
No.
it take you to get there? Is that a new thing?
It's been fairly recent. I feel like one of those people who has been like emotionally abused, and it's not in a negative way, but what it is that like because you've been so strong, um they'll pile on the burdens, they'll pile on the struggles, they'll put infinite amounts of responsibility on you because you're the tough one, or
Hmm.
everybody always tells me like I'm emotionally centered. Like that's because I had to sit in my feelings and figure them out. Like, wasn't nobody caring about the moments when, it'd be like a house full of people and BJ would walk through the whole house, say hi to everybody, go in this room, close the door, and cut the light off. It was just like a normal thing. Oh, that's just him. That's what he does. But they didn't know I'm in there suffering.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when it got to a point of not being ashamed, I just started speaking out, like, telling people, you drive me crazy. You get on my fucking nerves.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? And when you get those things out, one, they're shocked because they're so used to you not saying nothing or burying yourself in that dark place. But once I started communicating my truth and telling people how I really felt, getting it off made me feel better. But then again, I'm beginning to learn about, empathy and all of these different things by just expressing myself. So giving a black man the opportunity to figure those things out actually helps him to come to certain realizations about his feelings, because while he's expressing, he's learning.
Hmm.
So that's how I got it out, just telling people what it really was. And now, like, I don't have to tell you, I'll just completely remove you. Like, I'm not gonna, you know go through the processes of making you understand something that has been presented more than one time. I'm just going to remove you altogether. So prioritizing your mental health is definitely, like, number one for me.
Hmm.
And that's going to stay that way, because that's the most detrimental thing to lose at this point of where we are as men. So
I think for me, it's like something that I honestly still struggle with. I spent so long like not wanting to process my own mental health because I felt like it was selfish, or I felt like nobody wanted to hear that, or I felt like, what do I look like bitching? And so I'm still learning. Honestly, it's still something that I'm working through, is learning how to make decisions, putting my mental health first, because it's so like my kids, my family, my mom. Like I think about what they need me to do before I think about what I need, if that makes sense.
yeah. And like, there was a practice that somebody had given me not too long ago, where one of my, spiritual elders that I talk to whenever I just need certain things answered. And the funny thing about the conversation was, he was asking, he said, like, the order in which people get served in the house is
Hmm.
the same order that you're supposed to be prioritized in.
Ooh.
Now, that blew me. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? I'm like, bro, like, you about to go into a controversial space by saying this. But think about it. Okay, typically the breadwinner is the person that's supposed to get the first plate. That's the man that put in the time, made the provisions. So naturally, he's supposed to get his plate first. So what that teaches you as a man is, if you're not okay, how does people in this household get fed? If you're not okay, how does the provisions for the home get taken care of? Like, it's a mental training that we just reduce to, oh, make sure daddy eat. No, it's a system that is set to help you understand what your priority and what your value is to the household. So don't just look at the plate. Look at, if in fact you're not mentally healthy, how damaging it is for all of the other people in the house to get mentally and spiritually fed.
Yeah.
Like, it's setting a order and a tone. So in that moment, I'm like, damn, I gotta really stop thinking about always trying to appease the women. How am I gonna be strong for them if I'm not conditioning my strength?
All
You know what
right.
I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like, it's it's a lot of mental stuff that we have to do as men to condition ourselves to be a little bit more aware and in tune with our feelings.
Absolutely true, Rome. We're answering the question of how often do we make decisions to protect our own mental health, and then I threw in the additional question of, and do you feel guilty when you make decisions that put your mental health first?
Oh, absolutely. Putting your mental health first definitely is something that can make you feel guilty. I mean, especially coming from where I come from, like in the sense of having children, right?
Mm,
Like times I get in this space where it's like I know it wouldn't be healthy for me to be around my son. So I try to like just do the small things from like picking them up from school or taking them to school or like just bringing them something to eat or something just to make sure that I'm present but
okay.
still not giving off that bad energy. um my situation is kind of unique in the sense that me and his mother, we co-parent very well. We're not together, but um I don't really get along with her family.
Okay.
So like being around her family so much, and like she's super very like she's very family oriented, and being around them just kind of brings me in a space where I typically don't like to be in, because
Okay.
I just like being around, like I try to avoid being around people that I don't have to be around.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So uh just times when I'm feeling down or things might not be going my way, um, I do feel guilty in that sense because boys look up to their fathers, like they want to be
Yeah.
their father. So he want to be around me all the time. And sometimes it's just I know it's not healthy for me to be around him.
Damn.
Mm.
Damn. I feel that though. I feel, and that's one of those situations when like people around you, regardless of who it is, they bring down your mental health. You in that situation is even more unique, but it's like you got to get people like you want naturally. It's like let me get these people to fuck around me, but it's
Mm-hmm.
harder to do when it's like your ex's family. Because what can you say in that at that situation? And then if you don't come around, it's like you're not coming around to see your son. So then you feel the guilt. I would imagine then because you missed out on an opportunity to see your son. That's crazy.
But you know what? That's actually emotional intelligence, though, too,
True. Yeah.
because the way in which, like me envisioning being in that position, I would tell my ex, like, look, okay, this is the space that I'm in whenever you bring these people around. I'm not responsible for making you comfortable being around your family while me and my kid are in your presence. That's not my thing no more. So ultimately, what can we do that's healthy for me to, one, be able to mentally be sane, spiritually be in tune, and then also entertain the needs of my child? I want to be comfortable in that space. I don't really fuck with your people like that. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, and those are the conversations that I think become easier now that we're understanding what we're feeling, because your son is gonna pick up on that vibe that daddy don't really fuck with them, and without knowing it, he's going to inherit something from you
Yep.
that makes him believe that he's being loyal to his dad, when it could be very unhealthy for his mental stimulations or his mental growth, because he's going to need these very people. He has to identify what he's feeling. Like, dad is uncomfortable, dad is feeling these tensions. What is it? Versus like, something wrong with my dad, so whatever my dad don't like, I don't like. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, he's going to
Yeah.
internalize it in that way, and that could, send the relationship in a totally different direction. So just knowing that you feel those things is a beautiful thing, because now we get to prioritize ourselves, respect our relationships, and then also be healthy for our children. So
Exactly.
that's dope,
That's exactly the point, because I don't want him to take on my opinions of how I feel about a lot of things. Period.
Right,
Mm,
right.
Him to take on my opinions of those things. I want him to formulate his own. So when I'm around those people, of course, I try to be cordial and make sure that I'm being respectful. But yeah, those not my people.
yeah.
I feel you on that.
Yeah, he's not my people.
All right. I think we got that one. We're gonna move into the next section, which is not allowing our masculinity to define us. So the first question in this one is, why do we as men generally resort to physical strength, to using physical strength to express how we feel? And that may be when you were younger. I know for me, it's was a bigger thing when I was younger than now currently, but I definitely wanted to talk about this. And I think I'm sure you guys know. I'm not even going to over explain it. What do you make of that question? Who wants to answer this one first?
Mm,
Um,
physical. Wow. I'm thinking on it. I'm thinking on
And
it.
by that I mean, like, when we can't always express, we don't have the words
right.
to express the emotions that we feel. What do? We we punch shit. We flip shit
Yeah,
over. You
that's
feel
true.
me? We want to go out and box. Like sometimes we bond what through slap boxing with our brethren. Like I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we typically we show a lot of our emotion initially through physical means rather than speak to them, and that's because I think we don't know how to talk to them. So
Mm-hmm. But I think I think what we do in the physical sense is just a reflex because you don't see a lot of the emotions that you deal with coming. So
mhm,
naturally, when you feel those pressures or those whirlpools of feelings, it's just a natural reflex to respond the first way that comes to your mind. So naturally, you are going to probably punch a wall because you felt like something was coming against you. You're trying to defend yourself against whatever you feel like is coming against you.
yeah,
So there's a there's a training process that comes along where you have to tell yourself, why do I feel as though every time I'm in my feelings, I'm being threatened?
mm,
Like, you got to ask yourself that question. Like, why do I feel like there's a threat coming against me just for feeling sad today or just for feeling? And when you ask yourself those questions and figure those things out, your reflexes begin to change because now you're not afraid whether it shows up or not. You know what I'm saying? So you just got to take a minute to sit with those feelings. I know that, like, one of the things that I hate most about any emotion is being mad
mm.
because I'm petty. I'm spiritually petty. Like, um I went on a date with my girl like months ago to Buffalo Wild Wings, right? I spent like $80 at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I've been pissed about that shit for like a year and a half. And every so often I think about that occasion where the motherfucking waiter was just bringing me refills, not telling me that they were free. They weren't free. He just kept bringing them to me like, "Oh, I'm gonna, get you another drink. I'm gonna go get you another drink." In my mind, I'm thinking this a free refill type shit. And literally, when I got the bill, I'm like, "We didn't even eat shit, and this shit was $80." I held on to that shit for so long, and when I tell you, I have not been back there, and it's been like a year and some change. I'm just that person. I just internalized my anger for so long. Like,
Mhm.
and I don't know why that is. I really don't know why that is, but I sit in my anger and say, why do I feel threatened by being angry? What does it make me feel? And then you begin to realize, okay, anger usually comes when I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. So I stop putting myself in positions to be taken advantage of. Anger makes me feel like I'm lesser of whoever is in the same space dealing with the same, issue, because ultimately this person is the priority and I'm not. Usually I'm the one being called on when this person didn't come through. So I'm always second fiddle. Like, I start to like break down how I feel, and then I change the atmosphere that puts me in this place. And that's how I help myself, you
Mm.
know. So emotional intelligence has been like a training course. I read books on that because I'm an emotional person. So being vulnerable sometimes will scare you away from feeling the feelings that you deserve to feel.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So it's a constant battle, but I think it's healthy for men to go through it.
yeah. Ron, what about you?
As far as me, feeling the need to exert myself physically, um, I guess when I was younger, I did a lot more of like punching the walls and when I get upset or be mad about something that my mom's did, or like my mother put me on punishment, like when I was a kid. Now I think it's a lot more controlled. So whenever I'm feeling stressed or I'm feeling anger or I feel like I need to get a release, like I'll go play a sport, like go play basketball, or
Mm-hmm.
Sundays I play flag football. So that's like really been a way to help me exert that energy that I keep boiled up in me, whether it's stressed or anger or being upset or being sad sometimes. Like it just helps me like I found different forms of meditation in a sense, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like playing basketball has been a form of meditation for me. Like playing football has been a form of meditation. Podcasting has been a form of meditation therapy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So these I found different ways. I found ways to put that energy in positive places
Right,
rather than
right.
Yeah.
putting holes in the wall or flipping tables and stuff like that. So
I got tired of breaking shit. I'm not even gonna lie. I got tired of replacing shit. I got tired of breaking shit. No, but much like you, Rome, for me it was sports in high school. Then when that got taken away, it took me a long time as an adult to figure out ways to channel my anger and to channel my emotions. So sometimes it'll be Madden, sometimes it'll be 2K. Then if those start pissing me off, then I didn't know what to do. So then it started having to be music. I got really heavy into music. I started almost always having the headphones in, not because I wanted to block out the world, but because that was what considered me. You put on some Marvin Gaye. I don't care what happens. If you put on Marvin Gaye, give it all up. I don't care if I'm about to kill you. We family at that point. Like I'm good. I'm good. So like Stevie Wonder, like it started taking me to listen to music to try to find myself, and then creativity started kicking in. So I started making music. Then it went into, after doing that for a while, it was reading. I always had a book in my hand. I was always reading. It helped me escape what was currently going on, because now I'm in the world of whatever I'm reading and I'm good. Or if I'm reading something that makes me think that's educating me, not like fiction, then I'm because I'm taking in more knowledge, that calms my mind because I'm too busy trying to process what I'm reading. And now it's podcasting. Getting behind this microphone has been so therapeutic. People who've known me for years have been like, you really seem happy and centered. And it's because I found this. And because of that, it's like I can get everything I need to get off. So
Hmm. You gotta have the right people to be a podcaster though, because I definitely have like threatened to quit several times in this process of, self medicating and, like actually purging. Like you, when you out there and you done said like your deepest, darkest, whatever, and it's like out there and you can't take it back. I've said I was gonna quit so many times, but you gotta have like a healthy group of people that make you feel like it's okay, to
yeah.
get those things off, because a lot of us are still humiliated by a lot of the things that we've experienced on top of what we're now currently feeling. And that sends you into a even darker place, because now you regretting saying what you said, or like it's so much that goes into podcasting that people really don't understand.
Oh yeah.
Like it just looks like some simple shit. You just turn your mic on, start talking, and then you hit stop. Like no, it's not. It's I mean, definitely a process for me.
Yeah.
Like man, it take me 3 weeks sometimes to do one episode, because I have so many feelings to throw into an hour conversation. So I
My
definitely feel like podcasting is therapeutic.
my
Definitely.
my favorite thing with podcasting is when somebody who has that mindset of is just sitting down in front of a mic and pushing record. The first time they try to record a podcast, and they're like, "Oh shit, this is not what it is at all." I love seeing
Hmm.
seeing that recognition come on their face, because now that I help so many like people like here locally like do podcasts, it's like, you see it now. It's not that simple. So
Hmm.
um but to get back on track, the one question here that I posted on Twitter a few weeks ago, and I really wanted us to talk about it here, is like, is is the suck it up, you can cry later mindset a big reason as to why men do not process emotions correctly or effectively? Rome, I'm coming to you first on this one. What do you think? The suck it up, you can cry later mindset.
So you coming to me first?
Yeah.
The suck it up, don't cry mindset is definitely why we don't process our emotions. I think the biggest thing about that is that the women push it on men.
Ooh.
Like
Mm.
we get a lot of people talking about toxic masculinity,
Uh-huh.
and I know being a toxic feminist is not really a thing, but the women push it on men a lot more than the men push it on each other. Um, sometimes I have to have conversations with my son's mother about the way that she pushes it on my son. I'm like, yo, you gotta let him be a kid. Like, you keep using all these words in this verbiage that you expect him to just understand how he should be, especially because he comes from a Caribbean background.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you gotta let him be a kid. You gotta let him go through those motions and through those emotions of trying to figure out what it is he's feeling. Like, um, recently I had to have the birds and the bees conversation with him a little earlier than I expected to have it, um, because he's curious, and when she found out what he had did something. I don't even want to talk about what he did, but he had something, and like her first reaction was to try to scold him for it. And I'm like, nah, you gotta entice his curiosity, understand what it is that he's feeling, try to understand what it is that he want to know, rather than scold him for it, because it's not gonna help, like him emotionally.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
it's rough. It's rough out here.
Definitely can be. BJ, I know you got something to say on this one.
Now, I do think that the suck it up and cry later is actually there's a duality to it because I think that men, whether we want to admit this or not, we're more comfortable to cry in front of women than we are in front of men. So one of the reasons why it becomes traumatic in some senses is because women don't understand that when a man cries in front of you, he trusts you, and then when you turn him away, now he's sent back out with no one to trust. A man crying in front of another man, he wants to feel compassion and he feels as though he's looking to another man to understand him. So
Mm-hmm.
when a man sends you away and call you a bitch or a crybaby or whatever, now you're being let down. So all of these emotions that are being misunderstood turns you into something that you're actually not even supposed to embody because you don't have an outlet to express it. So I definitely feel like the suck it up and cry later could go either way, depending on whether you're dealing with the woman or dealing with the man. So being centered is the first step into that. Like just accepting that I cry does a hell of a lot in terms of how you express yourself in front of people because after a while you won't care and you'll just be more so focused on finding the people that accept you for having those emotions because I was definitely the person that would cry and the women would be like cut that shit out, you supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be the man of the house, and I'm like, well damn, I really feel like this is where I am right now. And then the men, it's like, oh man, you acting like a bitch right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I can't trust nobody. And this is what sends men out into the world with this attitude of, I gotta get money because you gotta overcompensate for things that you feel that you keep getting let down on, you know? And it just turn you into somebody that you don't want to be in the end. You want to be loved, but you got to know how to love yourself in order to command the love that you want from other people. But I mean, how if you can't even cry?
Yeah, I
That's a
think
fact. That's a fact.
that's definitely real, and it's definitely reassuring when like you you be in one of those situations where, as for me, for example, one of my son's cousins died in a car accident a few months ago, and when I found out, I was actually like at happy hour with this young lady that I was dating, and then, like we weren't serious or nothing, but just like that overwhelming feeling of what I felt, like I had to cry, like I had to get it out, and her just understanding and being accepting of that made me feel like okay, like I'm not quote unquote a bitch or I'm not a crybaby because I'm crying about this and
Mm-hmm.
in front of this young lady. You know what I mean? So that's definitely important.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that that we do to each other, people do to us that just cause so much like repressed emotion that then comes back out later on in more aggression, and then they wonder like how what do you expect if someone, it's just like when you see a kid who's still learning how to talk and they can't find the words that they want to come out of their mouth, and then they just throw the toy or they get upset, and it's not because they're necessarily angry, it's because that they are just frustrated at the fact that they can't find what's in their head to come out. And a lot of times us as men are like that too, because we have been taught so long to suck it up that then when it's time to express it or we're put in that position where we have to, we can't find the words, we can't find the the feeling, and then it comes out in stress, it comes out in depression, it comes out in drinking, it comes out in drug addiction, it comes out in so many different ways, and it
Mm-hmm.
all can go back to that.
Now I got a question though. Um, when a person typically, and this is just my example, when I've ever heard "suck it up," it came from a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Ask the woman what it is. Suck what up? You know what I'm saying? Because my question would be, well, how come you can't suck it up when you go through the motions that you go through? Explain to me what your process is for your emotions to help me understand why it is important for me to suck this shit up.
Mm.
Because you can't deal with it. You
You,
can't deal,
Yeah.
you
you know,
know.
I comes from the false narrative that women are more emotional than men. Like that, I believe that is totally false. I
I do
believe men
too.
Yeah.
are 10 times more emotional than women.
And
We
you
just don't
know,
express it the same way.
right. And
Yeah,
then the thing about the whole idea of women are much better communicators. That's not true either. They just have strong suits in communication. Men have been communicating from day one. When you don't get a reaction from a man, that's communication. When a man is not interested in holding a conversation with you and he goes completely silent, that is communication. It's up to you to accept the level of communication that this person is giving you. You can't say, well, he's not communicating with me, so I'm no, he is communicating with you. Actions speak louder than the words.
Mm. They don't want to hear that though. And
They
I
don't
think
want
too, and I think too, like,
I agree, but slightly disagree. I
okay.
slightly disagree. I think women over communicate. I
Mm.
think I think women over communicate, but they don't comprehend.
Ooh.
That's what I think the problem is.
Okay.
I
to.
think,
Nah, I can feel that.
yeah,
I can feel
Yeah.
that.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think women over communicate, but they don't comprehend because you can explain to a woman like especially for me speaking for myself, I can explain to a woman what it is that I'm feeling or what it is the lack of that I'm not getting, and she just won't try to understand.
That
I
whole
think
what you mean, I hate it when they talk about us when we respond with K when they send long texts, but I hate it when we will flat out say something of how we feel and it's like what you mean. Did I
like
just
yeah,
talk Spanish?
right,
Mm-hmm.
right. That's the point I'm talking about. Like they don't comprehend. Like we can communicate back and forth all day, but it won't make a difference if nobody comprehends what the other person is saying.
That's
It's
a
like you
fact.
could read a book, but if you don't have no understanding of what the book is trying to tell you,
Mhm.
then you didn't really read the book.
Yeah.
Right, right. And I think that comes from the idea of people wanting you to be like this thing of intentional. Like, in my opinion, when when a person gives you a certain energy, or they tell you in so many words, it could be 5 words or less, but if the 5 words sum up exactly what this person is feeling, you have to respect that. You know what I'm saying? Because what is valuable to you is not going to always be the same currency to another person. So when we tell men, oh, well, y'all don't communicate, we go right back into those spaces where we've been communicating and you just didn't comprehend. And so now we're thinking there's something wrong with us.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Right.
we have been saying in so many words, I'm not interested in this shit you talking about, or this
Fact.
has no value to me as a man. I have a ton of other things that are more significant, and not to discredit what you're saying, but this is just not of any emotional value to have me act in a certain type of way that you want to draw out of me. Like, this is me communicating the level of intent and respect that I have for what you said. You have to respect that.
Yeah.
So like we send men back into these spaces of thinking, oh well, like I thought I did say I didn't want to go to this raggedy ass motherfucking club. Or I thought I did say that I don't like these kind of movies. Like you saying it in your actions. You know what I'm saying? But here you are being scolded for the way you communicate, because again, they have stronger suits in certain areas of communication, but it doesn't mean that they communicate better,
Right.
There you
you
go.
know?
That's true.
Yeah.
There you go. Shit, bro, you said it. That's it. Just a mic drop on that one. Oh man. So the last one that we have, we kind of got into it with that one is love. And this so we talked about our women. But we're gonna talk about, like, even with everything that we face daily as black men, pain, anguish, oppression. We've talked about it all here. Hurt,
Hmm.
grieving, which BJ brought up. How do we not only properly love our family and friends, but also take time out to love ourselves?
Oh man, you gotta,
Mm.
you gotta, you gotta figure out what you gotta understand the things that you love, and really just take time and set aside things for you. Like,
Mhm.
what is it that you love from the very beginning all the way to the end? A female friend of mine told me one time, write down 100 things that you like. Just write down 100 things, and just go through it, every so often, and see if you are doing those things actively. Like, so I think it's really big to just make sure you set aside time for yourself, to understand and love yourself, and
Hmm.
know what the things are that bring you joy. Simple things.
That's a that is a really difficult question, because I use I use a lot of my time trying to understand the different stages that people use for love. Like the whole in love thing. Like, I don't believe in that anymore. And the reason why I say it is, you're supposed to be in whatever love you're experiencing. You have to be fully in it in order for it to even work. So like, what is being communicated when you say I'm in love? Like, shouldn't it be like something that you're invested in with anybody you love? Like, I think that we're trying to explain to people in so many words that I've been in this position more than one time, and I want you to feel like it's different or better in this particular instance with you, as if you haven't done some of the same things with all of the people that you've been with. So it becomes an issue of you trying to explain something that you really don't even know how you truly got to the point of even feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Uh, to me, it makes sense in the aspect of what you're saying. It, I think people just don't have an idea of what being in love is. Well, just based off my opinion, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem is that we separate how we love our friends and family from the way we love a person that we're intimate with, right? So I think our love for friends and family is totally selfless, right? Like you will go to any amount of depth to show your love for your mother or your little sister or your little brother or your son or your daughter, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we separate that in the sense of intimacy, right? Like with a significant other, like we won't be as selfless with them as we are with our family, and I think that's the problem.
Mm.
There's too
So,
many conditions. So if we can somehow show that same love to our significant other, then I think that is truly being in love.
right. That's my
I
point.
like
I
Yeah,
that.
think, yeah,
Yeah.
you made my point. That's
yeah,
exactly what I was thinking. Because I think that ultimately, when you come into that state where you can't be as selfish or freeing as you would like to be, is because you came into that with stipulations in order
right,
to even earn the love that you
right.
get from that person. So,
Hmm.
like, that's the reason why it's so complicated, is because I'm supposed to love freely and not have any type of inhibitions or conditions on it. I just want to be free to feel what I feel. And you can't always do that in an actual intimate relationship, because again, you can't cry in front of some of your women that you deal with, or you can't lose your job like the common person when you in certain relationships, but your family is always going to be there, so the love is a little bit more
Yep.
selfless, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that in love thing is kind of like just trying to establish another person's ego to feel like he loves me more than the people that he's probably not really communicated his affections to.
Right.
And you taking advantage of him in that way, because he really don't even know how he feel. He's just trying to make you understand that you important, when that's been proven in the amount of time he spends, the investments, the attention he pays. All of these things have been showing you that, but you're forcing him to communicate a love he never felt,
Yeah.
you know. But I mean, ultimately, to answer your question, I do think that, like, the first thing a man has to do is love himself first.
Hmm.
Take the time to identify what it is that makes you love anything. What does that consist of? And when you figure those things out, how much can I distribute to people in order for me to be comfortable still in prioritizing myself? Saving a little bit of love for yourself is very important too. That's how you prevent from your love being abused. So it's different steps, and I think everything that Ron was saying is very accurate, because when you put too many things in the space to where all you're doing is loving and it's not being reciprocated, you'll easily become a volatile, or a angry, emotional, or angry, vulnerable person,
Yep.
and that don't help nobody.
That's
Yeah.
a fact.
Yeah. When you get in that space with two people who are intimate, who are selfless with their love, like it's funny to say, but you don't have to worry about yourself, right?
Real
Like
talk.
like you don't have to worry about yourself. Like as long as I'm doing the things that's making her happy, she's gonna do the things that's making me happy, and we don't have to worry about so much loving ourselves because we know who we are.
Right, right,
We know
right.
who we are. Yeah, that's very important, man.
That's y'all niggas killed this shit, man. I'm so glad I got y'all together, man. So the last thing that we're going to talk about: how do we teach this to the next generation? So our sons, our children, our people that are underneath us, like how do we teach them how to discover the love for themselves that seems like all of us can agree to
Come
we
on.
had to come into over time. So Rome, you have a son. I'll ask you this first. How do you teach your son how to love himself?
Um, I just try to teach him values and principles. So I got this thing where every like month or two, like I'll give him what I think are rules of life. right? So I tell them, be kind to others, respect yourself, make sure people respect you, um, and sometimes just the content that we consume. In the past couple of years, I've kind of strayed a little more away from hip hop and like listen more to R&B, and I can honestly say it's had an effect on the way that I like communicate with women, um,
Mm.
understand women, my spirituality, uh, just like the hip hop culture. Even though we don't really think it plays a huge role in who we are, it does. Like we come into it with those stigmas of like I can't let another nigga fuck my girl or like weird shit like that. But if you just be good and you be nice to a woman, an actual woman, not a girl, a woman, then you'll get the results that you expect.
Do you ever find that that is not always the case for you as a man, though? Because there are some instances where I believe that men need to understand the power of leadership first. Because I was having a conversation with one of my homeboys, and he couldn't understand for the life of himself how this woman keeps coming around asking for money, right? And so I let him explain the story. And the story that he told was she came, she asked for a dollar amount that he knew was a sacrifice to make before he even considered giving it to her. But in the same space that we talking about vulnerability, he would have rather suffered and not had provisions for himself than to look like a broke nigga in front of her. Like mentally, you have to be a leader and understand that no matter what position you are in, be comfortable with being honest about who you are and what you're going through. So like in this particular instance, he was trying to protect his ego and then
Yeah.
still gave the girl the money. So now we get deeper into the conversation, and then he says, well, now every time she needs some money, like she think that all she gonna do is have sex with me. And so I asked him a question. I said, well, why didn't you ask for the money when you knew that it was already a sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
Again, not wanting to look like a broke nigga in front of the woman. So now you done sent this woman off thinking that her pussy is worth $1,000, because instead of asking for your money back, you asked her, well, what you gonna do for me? And she decided what she was gonna give you for the money. Like you put her in a position to feel that way.
Mm.
Yeah.
So like
Um,
we can say like in so many ways, like, okay, well, we have to do certain things to protect ourselves. But first we have to be leaders, man. Don't be ashamed to be broke. It's a part of the cycle and the development of a man. You have to feel those feelings. That's how you figure out how to avoid being broke. You got to know what it feel like, and literally, like, he telling the story is just like, man, every time she come, it seemed like she asking for more money each time,
You
because
train people how to love you.
you trained her how to love you.
Yeah.
So now
yeah,
she thinking that every time she give a man some ass, it's worth 1,000, 1,500, and you set that standard for her.
Mm.
You should have just asked for your bread back. This is not me giving you anything. This is a loan, and I would have wrote on a piece of paper and made her sign it. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, if you know that you're not in a position to give her nothing like that, don't put yourself in that vulnerable place to be taken advantage of.
Damn.
I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, you know what? So that's crazy because I was having this conversation the other day. Um, at some point, I feel like all men have been taken advantage of by women, whether it's been emotionally or financially, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I can say I've been in a space where a woman has taken a girl has taken advantage of me financially, but I was a teenager, right? And like I guess what you saying in regards to being a leader, you learn quick, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
have you have to go through these things in order for you to learn it. So, I bought a girl a pair of sneakers when I was like 16 or whatever. And she wasn't really feeling me, but she knew I had it because I was making a couple dollars. And I learned from then that okay, like this is not how a relationship's supposed to go. Like
Yeah.
it's supposed to be, equal balance. Like when I don't have it, you got me, and when I
Mm-hmm.
got you, not you just coming to me for every time you giving me some pussy. Like nah, we not moving like that.
Yeah. But I mean, again, it's like we train our men to think that that is like compensation for
Yeah,
the sacrifices that we make. Like, we go through, so much that really is like a strain on our physical and mental being, all of this stuff that we go through, and we make that sufficient,
Yeah.
in certain spaces because as we've come up around other men train you to believe that it's okay to just settle for that, you know.
no,
So now as adults, we complaining about women always asking for money when you probably set the standard for how much she charge.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So like leadership is important. Like start saying no.
it's true.
You
That's
know what I'm saying?
it's funny that you word it that way. I never thought about it in the sense of leadership, and now that you saying it, it's bringing it to call for me because I guess I always been a leader in that way, where like I'm not the oldest dude in the group, but I always had like an older mentality and
Right,
yeah,
right, right.
so I totally get what you're saying. I totally
Yeah.
yeah. What about
Any
you?
I I don't know, man. I've never experienced that because I've always been a cheapskate with my money. I'm not giving nobody no money. Um, but no, I do like kind of what I said earlier. I think we do treat people how to love them, and we how to love us. And when you, as men, when we accept certain things like giving someone money, or making a female feel like you coming and sucking my dick is going to do anything. Like what are you doing? Like it's not
Mm,
really like, I mean, yeah, you physically did something for me. But if you gonna be with me, it takes more than that. Like I need more than that from you. You like that's not love. That's lust. That's not love. I can lust you all day. That's not fucking love. So I think too, we look at lust first as love, and we learn more than that as we go. But initially, it's just like when you are younger and you first start getting your real piece of ass. When she fucking the shit out of you, you feel like, oh, she loves the hell out of me. No, she's trying to get her nut like you trying to get her nut. Get a nut. Like that's it.
Facts.
yeah, harsh realities, man. Harsh realities.
But to get back on like how do we teach the next generation, I really think we're the first generation that really understands the importance of mental health. So we can't let our children down by not making sure that they know what it took us 30 plus years to learn, in a sense. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, like with my sons, it's okay to be angry, but tell me why you're angry.
Right,
Let's
right.
talk through it. I need to know what you're mad at. You're mad at the toys not doing what okay, so what exactly do you want it to do? Like process stuff. How do we process it? Because for me growing up, it wasn't there was no slowing down to understand why I was mad. There was no slowing down for that. I had too much stuff on my plate to even think to slow down and put energy into that. So now it's like now that we know how detrimental that can be to our health, we have to teach them better. We have to give them
Mm-hmm.
the blueprint that now we're building currently.
Right, right. And it's
Yeah.
gonna get harder over time because the next generation has a certain level of rebellion, a healthy level of rebellion, to where they have a keen instinct to already know that some of the things being handed down to them are bullshit.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the most interesting thing because I don't think that we've ever we didn't I don't think that we didn't have it. I think that we just didn't think it was okay to display it because we were always manipulated to believe that being quiet was respectful.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So now that this generation is kind of like, fuck that, I'm not accepting this. And they have a certain level of um I don't know if it's emancipation in their spirit to where they like, look, I'll rather be homeless than to be, a slave in my own home, or I'll rather like go without than to be persecuted for feeling the things that I feel. Like they have this certain level of resilience that I don't think we were comfortable enough to feel. So I really don't know what we can hand them down. But I think that if we kind of like set those same steps and standards to express ourselves even more, they'll understand a certain level of dignity versus just being as brash or outrageous about going about some of the things that they do. Because sometimes in being expressive, you can be careless.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, I think that they'll be fine. Like just the fact that we're all realizing that we feel things is a huge step in the right direction. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So for them, I just think it's just basically us just showing them the dignity of it all, because these kids today don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They blatant about how they feel. They're very fluid in their sexuality. They not hiding. They not having. It's not like us where we had to like have a coming out moment of any kind. Like they just like, look, this is me. You know what I'm saying? So they already pretty much in the step or taking steps in the right direction already. So
There you go.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anything to add?
just to add to that, I I feel like we are in that generation of parents to where we letting our kids know that we're not perfect, right?
Yeah,
Like
that too.
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of grew up thinking that our parents were perfect, and then you get older and you start to hear all the family stories and all the things that's going on, and you be like, oh, like my mother is a woman just like any other woman, like she made mistakes just like any other woman, or my father is a man just like any other man, he made
Hmm.
mistakes just like every other man. So I think that's important to teach our children, and I try to make sure I tell my son that all the time. Listen, I know you love me and you want to be like me, but I am not perfect.
Hmm.
I am not perfect. I didn't. I purposely didn't want you to be a junior because I want you to be better than me.
Mm.
I don't want you.
Mm.
I
Mm.
don't want you to be me. I want you to be better than me. So just making sure that we do those things. That's how we can make sure that we push the love forward and make sure that they learning these things.
For sure. For sure.
Yep. For sure. Well, that's it. We did that thing. I want to thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for taking time out. I know everyone's busy, so I appreciate y'all. Any parting words? If not, go ahead and leave them with your social media. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I ain't
Yeah, I
got
go.
nothing else.
All right.
Yeah, I go first. Man, thank you for having me first and foremost. Um, reaching all the way out.
Oh,
Um,
anytime, bro.
yeah, that's a fact. But yeah, you can catch me on Instagram, the Rebel Rome, Rhome. Don't forget the H. Follow our Truths podcast at our like the time HOUR Truths podcast.
All right. Make sure you go and check them out, BJ.
Well,
My phone.
you can find me at Dergo BJ on Twitter, DERGOBJ on Twitter. I have a show page that pretty much houses everything that I do, and that is the Subject Change on Instagram. Any comments, questions, or otherwise, you can hit me up in the email too at changed subject CHANGED subject at gmail.com. And just hit Haize up if you can't get through those. He'll get you to me however he gets you to me. So
Absolutely. You guys can follow me at CEO Hayes. That's CEOHAIZE. You can follow the podcast at Awaken Soul Pod. And you can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, theawakensoulpod at gmail.com. This has been another episode, and we out. Peace.
that's
All right.
dope.